Tucker Carlson spoke at this Turning Point USA event in Duluth, Georgia, and is now referring to Trump as daddy and inciting election violence. This is a very dangerous man. We've talked before about Tucker Carlson's penchant for stochastic terrorism. Here is Tucker Carlson essentially endorsing an attempt to steal the election if Kamala Harris wins, and alluding to Trump as daddy, and daddy's upset.
That's the point at which you say, no, I'm sorry. I put up with this crap for a long time. I indulge your little fantasy. It's like when your teenage girl becomes a vegetarian, and you're like, okay, that's, okay, that's fine. No, I totally understand. You're like, it's a phase. But if that phase goes on for 9 years and includes destroying your major cities and allowing your country to be invaded by millions of foreigners whose identities you don't know, and whose purpose in this country is unclear, by the way, why shouldn't we feel threatened by that? If they go out of their way to crush families, to make it impossible for your kids to buy a house, and getting involved in the sex lives of your children, which they are, if they do all of that, they need to lose. And at the end of all of it, when they tell you they've won, no. You can look them straight in the face and say, I'm sorry, Dad's home, and he's pissed. Thank you.
When they tell you they've won, no. You look them straight in the face and say, I'm sorry, Dad's home, meaning Trump, and he's pissed. This is an endorsement of, by any means necessary, if we are told Kamala Harris won, you do what you need to do to put Trump in the White House. Tucker Carlson also, by the way, fully on board now. I didn't remember that Tucker fully bought the Trump really won it in 2020 stuff. But based on what he said yesterday to the Turning Point USA crowd, it sounds like he is now fully buying into that.
The vibe is so strong right now, I don't think we can get away with pretending something else happened. I don't think we can have another 2020 at this point. I just don't. I don't. Where they hid relevant facts from you, they prevented you from knowing about their candidate, and then claim victory, or 37 billion votes or whatever they claim he got. That's rigging the election, period. If the government prevents people from knowing critical information about a candidate, they have rigged the election. And they did that, period. Oh, you're not allowed to say that. I'm not allowed to say it because it's 100% true. And every person who hears it knows it's true, including the people who did it.
All right. So Tucker now saying it was rigged, straight up, it was rigged. And then finally, also to the Turning Point USA crowd, Tucker Carlson continuing to weaponize this very failed notion of what it means to be a man and what it means to be weak or a strong man, and explaining that the weak men being put forth by the left are part of why there are so many problems, including problems for women.
The Democratic Party machine, and notice I'm not beating up on Kamala Harris, who's just a hapless victim who happened to be there in the right color, so they grabbed her. Tim Walz, they needed some, whatever Tim Walz is. They needed a weak man.
By the way, Tim Walz is everything they say makes you a real man. He's a Midwest guy. He's a hunter, football coach, fixes his own car, likes fast food, I guess. I don't know. He seems very knowledgeable when they go into these various fast food places. Tim Walz actually is everything they say the alpha male is supposed to be. He doesn't wear makeup. And Trump is the opposite. And yet they have no choice but to say Tim Walz is really the weak man. But he embodies the strong man you claimed to love until you pledged loyalty to Trump.
Because it is the party of weak men and unhappy women. One of which leads to the other, by the way. Where you find weak men, you will inevitably find unhappy women. Sorry. And they make them on purpose. They weaken the men to drive the women insane, to have the most consistent voting bloc ever in the history of politics.
That doesn't even sound like it would plausibly work. And that's how you know these ideas have gotten really dumb. It's even if what Tucker were saying were true, it sounds like it wouldn't really work. deliberately creating weak men so that you upset the women into reflexively voting for Democrats. How is that even, how does that even logically follow? And of course, it's just diarrhea of the mouth. It's say whatever comes to mind, and the crowd cheers. Jim Brewer has this very unfunny skit where he acts as though the Democratic audiences are just, he does something, I don't remember if it's a cockatoo or what was, they just clap and go with whatever. This Turning Point USA audience is an empty vessel. It's just a void where Tucker says anything. The Democrats create weak men to upset the women so that they just vote Democrat unquestioningly. That doesn't even follow. But I'll clap. Sounds pretty good. So the problem, of course, is not that we are unable to see through it. We see through it. The problem is that tens of millions of Americans seem unable to. And that's what the election, unfortunately, hinges on. Men in the audience, this is for you. One of our new sponsors is Integrated Men, an online support community dedicated to helping men reclaim their power, break free from outdated masculinity norms, and find purpose. Integrated Men hosts weekly meetings that guide men in overcoming shame and self-limiting beliefs. If you feel lost, stuck, or like you're just trying to please others at the expense of your own happiness, this community can help you break free. It's not about pretending everything's easy. It's about embracing the chaos, facing fears, learning how to live with real integrity. They help men confidently into their purpose, to stop seeking validation from others, start leading your own life. The community dives into everything from setting boundaries, developing emotional resilience, understanding the 4 archetypes of mature masculinity. It's deep, it's practical, and most importantly, it's effective. If you're ready to step up, move past your old habits, live a life driven by purpose, not fear, I highly recommend checking out Integrated Men. Go to integratedmen.net/Pacman to learn more and check out my interview with Adil, and check out also the quiz that is a short assessment for taking that first step. The link is in the description.